We have to be visionaries to create something. The world doesn't understand your vision. Keep refining it, pivoting it, making it better. And then if your vision's right, you'll be there.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
My name is Paul Pacun. I am the co-founder of Myotic. We make a sales enablement platform called Vablet. I am a born and raised New Yorker. Went to high school, Bronx High School of Science, RPI for my undergraduate degree in engineering, and then MBA from Pepperdine when I moved from New York to California. I've always, 35 years, I've been in CRM and finance and IT.
Right.
So in April of 2010, I was with a friend of mine from high school that I had not seen for many years. We reconnected on Facebook and we're meeting, and he teaches PhDs how to be more creative. And he said to me, the iPad is going to change how companies communicate. I thought that was very odd. This was the day before the iPad launched. I got on the plane at JFK, flying to New York, reading Newsweek magazine. Jobs is on the cover holding an iPad, talking about 6,000 apps are going to be available tomorrow when this thing ships. I got to New York, 6 a.m., I'm up. My then 13-year-old daughter, Dad, what are you doing up? I'm going to the Apple store. I'm going to go buy a couple iPads. Can I come with you? So my daughter comes with me. We go to Apple. In the old days of Apple, people would have these really, really long lines. Remember those? To get the point of the iPad. So we're on this 3-hour line, and they said Apple people were allowing us to go in for 5 minutes and see the iPad, and they would hold our place in line. So they go, you can touch it. And I was fortunate enough throughout college, I actually interned for IBM. I was there when they launched the PC. But no one would describe touching a computer before. That was not something we would just, electric typewriters felt one way, IBM keyboards felt another way. So we went in to touch it, and my daughter was instantly hooked. And then to get me hooked on the iPad, I go, what game should I buy to put on the iPad? And I bought Plants vs. Zombies for my then 7-year-old son.
Right.
We start downloading it in the App Store. I take 2 iPads. I drive over to one of my programmers' houses, and I say, Mike, we're going to be building for this tomorrow. Have an iPad. I took my other iPad. My daughter launched it. We were outside of one of my programmers' houses. It automatically found the Wi-Fi. Plants vs. Zombies downloaded. It was $9.95 to buy a game. I thought that was a bargain because I've been buying Nintendo cartridges for $29.95, and then you lose them and you don't know where they are. And then
the console's obsolete.
That's it. So my daughter starts playing Plants vs. Zombies. We hand the iPad to my son, who had never seen a tablet before, never seen the game before, and within minutes, he's pinching and zooming and beating up all the little zombies.
Right.
So that day, we are a very geeky family. We got in my car and we drove to the California Science Center, about an hour and a half with traffic to go the 40 miles from my house.
Right.
Not one did he say, are we there yet? So instantly, for $4.99, a parent will never have to hear that expression again.
Right.
So definitely a winner. It's intuitive, it's touch, it's everything that I think a computer should be. And so we go to the California Science Center, I come home, and my daughter had downloaded the ABC video player on it when I'd gone to bed. And then I wake up in the morning, I see the ABC player, and it's playing videos on this iPad. My oldest daughter, I have 3 children, was a film student at NYU. So my goal was, how do I get her videos onto my iPad?
Right.
And it was a very complex process. Mm-hmm. And when we released Vablet in December of 2010 into the App Store, we were built from inception to handle huge files like videos. So we can handle, of course, PDFs. They're easy. Right. But we could also handle 500 meg videos or even a 2 gig video. And because I come from corporate, I've been CTO of bond trading firms and compliance firms, analytics from day one were built into the platform, which means
Right.
I know who has the content, I know what you're doing with the content, and because I believe in transparency, that content can be shared. We are allowing people to send that content on links to their prospects.
Right.
What I didn't count on, and this is in 2010, was that video would take until 2018 to eclipse PDFs for being created as the primary source of content. So we were a little too ahead of the curve.
Right.
So my tips to entrepreneurs would be, we have to be visionaries to create something, but if your vision, the world doesn't understand your vision, keep refining it, pivoting it, making it better, and then if your vision's right, you'll be there. But it may take longer than you expect.
Yeah, it's funny. Literally, the last episode, yesterday's episode, was talking with the guy, and we literally talked about, the early bird gets the worm, but the early mouse gets the trap, because they did a marketing play for 12 years, and you're doing a video play now for about 12 years as well, right? And I don't know, why do you think video took so long for creation? Is it camera shyness? People are just nervous to get in front of the camera to create the content, or PDFs are just so easy to make?
So the PDFs are very easy to make, but videos, since the iPhone came out, really, videos have been easy, but for corporations to adopt them, you have to hope that your buyers are willing to, instead of getting a 2-page brochure on a PDF, watch a video. Now, we know that the brains process video much better than they process written text. The ability to recall a video, with audio especially, is almost like 40 times the difference from printed.
Right.
But for corporations to move and start creating video content, and it's not a gimmick like a Snapchat, because Snapchat, brilliant. The use of filters from inception really let people take videos, customize them with no need for learning After Effects or Adobe products. But for companies to be able to embrace videos, and then, you've got the world looking at Vine at 8-second videos. Companies are making these 5 to 20-minute videos, and then they have to learn that they have to change their message and get a video down really to a minute.
Yeah.
Editing is really hard because you can lose context.
Yeah.
So they were just slower, and then finally, what we learned when we first started Vablet is the life science companies that adopted us, we really believe in being carbon free. We have very little use of paper from inception at this company, one.
Right.
But two, we would go to CES and Comdex and computer shows, and you'd watch people bring in tons of paper, give it away, and then ship it out. So we were adopted by one of the world's largest life science companies out of their paper budget. So the paper budget that they used for every pharmaceutical rep with that little black bag they would drag into a doctor's office, it's been replaced with an iPad and digital content. And by having digital content versus a printed PDF, people automatically assume that your company is more innovative. If you walk in and you hand somebody a paper flyer, how innovative do I think your company is? Where, look, here's an electronic aid. And look at the video play, and look at this interactive HTML content. It gives you that mental impression that you're in this case, the salesperson is within an innovative company.
Right.
And we know large companies aren't really the most innovative as a whole. So they took a while to be dragged into it. But now people are creating content. Well, the problem with videos is a lot of people don't know how to share them.
Right.
You just can't email a 200 meg video from your iPad to somebody. So then you have to use a platform. So it could be a Dropbox or a box. And in the early days in Dropbox, one of our salespeople, because we were testing it, dragged the brochures out of Dropbox. And then we're like, they were gone for the other people. We're like, that's not a good solution. And content's always changing. So I don't want you to grab it out. Content should be fluid and dynamic.
Yes.
And in a regulated industry, if they go, you can't say that about this drug, you have to change this sentence. You need to be able to recall everybody that's got the old one, push the new one out. And by the way, if you sent that file to a physician, you need to make sure that link does not point to the old version of the file. It's still,
Okay.
but links make it easy. Everybody has web browsers now. It makes it easy, but you have to think about how do you handle large pieces of content.
Right.
And then in 2013, our clients were like, videos are cool. We like videos, but we want interactive HTML to present. So
Right.
then we added. So we've been very early in the curve, which has been good, but it's also been
Good and bad. It's a double-edged sword, right? So now the rep goes in, they're selling a product, and they have a new CPAP that they're going to sell to the CPAP place, right? And they go in and they show them all the brochures. Does the sales rep have any feedback on, well, I don't have any leave behinds anymore. Everything's digital. What do I leave behind to prompt them to call me back directly instead of the other salesperson that's there and left a card or some kind of brochure?
Right. So once again, with permissions, that file could be emailed to the doctor,
Okay.
and now they can do it on a link. So, and then when COVID started, the world transitioned a little bit because they weren't traveling to doctors' offices to train them on the new equipment. Everything was
Right.
being remote. So the company can have all the training material in our platform, and then I send you, the physician, the link, and then you can run through the training guides. So that ability not only to have the content that the salesperson needs, but that ability to change the content, is critical because now they can update the training material. The physician just knows, click on the link on how to use this device, and it will always be showing them the right version of the file.
Right.
And then the rep can see, you never clicked on it. Can I help you?
If SKU 001 has this set of documentation, that URL for SKU number 001 is always going to be the same.
No, the SKU, when we send content, it's the security world is called man in the middle. I know that I sent it to you.
Correct.
So the link I sent to somebody else is different. So your link can have different rights than somebody else's link. And I
Okay,
can
but
kill
if the file changes on the other side of that link, that URL stays the same, just the content changes.
Yes, it's all dynamic.
Okay.
So, so we're in two regulated industries, life sciences and financial services. When you open the content, if they turned on the gate feature, you have to enter in your email address, or you can't even see the content that was sent to you.
Okay.
So if you decide you want to share that with your buddy, and you send them a link, you can't control what happens when people forward emails.
Right.
If your buddy puts in their buddy's email address, you're like,
Right.
denied. Or if they put in yours, then it looks like you wrote it, but it's not a problem on us. So there
Right.
are
So
no
if
hard
the
and
end
fast
user
rules.
lies about how they got to the data, that's not on you. That's on them.
Just I can't control the forward, but
Right.
I can expire the link after a day. So yes, and to entrepreneurs, you really do need to look at, if you're doing emails, what's the best email domain to send from, what's the file size, what is that experience like, and we like sending stuff as links, and that's what I encourage to do, because content's only getting bigger. It's not like a 2-page PDF now. And maybe that legally I'm required to send you this disclaimer when I send you this file. So PDFs have their place.
Yeah,
But-
and I mean, the link methodology, you're only storing the data once, right? Today, I would love to know the statistic on how much data is sitting on hard drives that's never going to be accessed again. Right? Because it's sitting in somebody's inbox or sitting on their computer, and they're never going to delete it. It's just going to sit there until the computer's gone, right? With the link, at least you're maintaining control of that document. It's sitting on the server somewhere, not on 1,000 different computers with thousands of different versions. So I think it's a really clever way to manage the permissions on data. And
Right. And
Google Drive and Dropbox did not get it right there.
no, they went folder level. We went file level. So yes, it was more, we over-engineered part of the tool. So yeah, we're on the file level, but the analytics, but yeah, we have this concept of a born on date. So every file has a born on date and an expire date.
Right.
And though it's not used often, inspired by Snapchat, I can say after you've viewed this file one time, it will self-destruct.
Right.
So you can compute how many views. And then if you have a big sales announcement, you say, you know what, this file can only be viewed starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. So So not only do you have rights to a file, but when do you have rights? And then globally, maybe it's a file that can only live in the US, and if you're not in the US, access is forbidden. So content is more than just PDFs. Now, one thing you can do with PDFs with no HTML knowledge is you can make a fillable PDF form.
Yeah.
So you could create a form in HTML, not hard, but PDFs, a non-technical person can make them. So with Vablet, you build a fillable PDF, you load it into us, and now that's an offline capture form. You can be anywhere in the world, fill it out, and then when you go back on Wi-Fi again, it'll send the data to the server, and then following the workflow rules, pretty much flatten that PDF and send it to the right department.
Right.
And then we're data geeks. So then all those answers are being stored and recorded. So using APIs or extracting the data, you can pull that data into Domo or Tableau or wherever you need it to go. So we've really made it very transparent to get to your data, but we've made it really simple so a salesperson doesn't have to think. They just have to share.
Perfect. That's glorious. So you told us a little bit about, the concept, how you got aware of the tablets and you played with them and you handed it off to one of your partners and said, hey, we're going to be working on this. Is the guy that you handed the tablet to and said, hey, we're going to be programming on this, is he your co-founder as well?
No, one of my developers.
Okay,
so
one of your developers. Can you tell us the story about how you said, okay, we're going to make this a business. You went and found a partner and now you're going to start this company. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Okay, great question. I don't get asked this one very often. So in 2000, my co-founder and I took a .com company public. We were a combination of an ISP. This is in the days of dial-up internet. I kid you not. Gray hair. I'm allowed.
I have no hair from those days.
So it was $15 a month. If you got dial-up and then everybody I'd refer, I would make $5 a month. We took it public in April of 2000, right as the bubble is blowing up. And then, sure, the world collapsed around us. So I'm trying to figure out, what do I do now? So I was looking for ideas for company names. So I came out with Myotic, which was kind of a joke for My Inc. So that was the background of it.
Right.
Being a technologist. In 2000, I started doing web apps. We still have clients that date back to the year 2000 that are with us. Two of my programmers date back to 2000 as well. So we started building websites for clients in 2000. And in 2006, one of our clients said, we would like to put a TV in a doctor's office and let the doctor pick which content shows up on the TV. And so since 2006, we've been building for the medical device space with video.
Gotcha.
So the tablet comes out. I'm like, well, I want my videos on my tablet.
Yeah.
Just a very logical extension to go from a consulting firm to a product firm.
Right. Okay.
And to budding entrepreneurs, would you rather sell something once or be able to get an recurring revenue stream? So it's that recurring revenue stream that we all love is easier than just doing piecemeal project.
Yes. I could not live a life that was eat my kill every day, and that's the only source of income I had. It would be a very miserable existence, in my opinion. And I'm right. I can't believe we haven't met before. If you're in the dial-up days of the 90s and early 2000s, I was right there in it as well. So it was a lot of fun. And boy, in 99, we were all rich, early 2000. And then mid 2000 hit and the world changed on us all really, really quickly.
It did. And the fact that you go back to the dial-up days. So I've always been innovative.
I still support dial-up services. Still today. I have a couple hundred people in Maryland, Virginia, that still dial in because there's no fiber, no DSL, no nothing in the Boot Hills.
Probably because cable and wireless had a lot of points there because that's where the pure point was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we still have a couple hundred people still dialing in on 56K modems, VFlex. So
I started with 300 baud modems. So 56, when I worked for Deloitte, we get to our home
to shut them off.
No, it works.
Yeah, it works for them. They dial in, they download their email, and they're done, right? They're 70 years old.
It works.
Yep.
And if it works, don't change it. One of our clients, they're in dental offices in 4 different states. In the dentist offices, all the bandwidth is committed to insurance billing and not to our tool. So they have 44K download speed in their offices for non-insurance billing. So to get 1 gig of content takes them roughly overnight. They don't care, they're not there.
Right.
But I still have clients with that speed. But my favorite story about dial-up internet, and I'm glad I can share this with somebody, is my daughter was trying to call her best friend, and she goes, the phone was always busy at Lindsay's house. She couldn't get through. And she's getting more and more frustrated. And I'm like, that's because her dad's on the internet. So my daughter was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You don't pick up a phone and go, hello, internet. And I'm like, you do. But because we had DSL and then I went to cable modem, Steve experienced that in her lifetime because I was always on the edge. But dial-up, it still works.
Oh, yeah. I remember as a kid, I would go in and open the case to pop the speaker off the modem so my parents couldn't hear me dialing in the middle of the night. Because my dad would get so mad. Like, those computers are never going to get you anywhere. You need to knock that off. I'm like, well, I can't read or write without a computer, Dad. So this is the way we got to do it.
Probably at a Hayes smart modem is my guess.
We started off, I was super fortunate. My mother worked for Washington University, and we had dial-up, we go back to the 1300 baud modems and stuff like that. So, I grew up, the first 15 years of my life was very, very low income. But like when the internet came, she got this job at WashU, and, our lives all started to change pretty drastically, pretty quickly, and got a lot of new toys in our lives. And computers were one of them. So luckily for me, my computer technology background comes from, I'm wildly dyslexic, and they couldn't figure out how to get me to turn in homework without a word processor. And I had a brother word processor in 2nd grade, and that's how I turned in all my homework. And luckily my mom is, for all of her negatives, she was a fantastic advocate for me, and she would fight tooth and nail to make sure that I got the resources that I needed at school. So
that's great.
Back in 1982, I was turning in my homework from a brother processor, but I had to reformat all the homework. Like, that was my job then, right? If he's going to do it, then he's got to format the entire worksheet and turn it in. And it's okay that it's typed. But, so I've been on a keyboard for a very, very long time, almost my entire existence. So. Right.
And I was very fortunate going to high school in New York City. In the 70s, we had a computer lab.
Right.
We had mark sense and punch cards, and so we learned very early on of what to do. And my first resume, I had a brother printer that had a ball. So my first resume, I actually wrote in BASIC. Right. So I could format everything and every line, and then all of a sudden you add one word, and then you have to reformat everything.
Yes. So, and then if you were in insert mode, you were screwed. So they don't have any of those problems today. No. Now, you have a lot of tech background, and you grew up with the internet. I found a problem today on a disconnect on, people in their 20s and early 30s have an expectation of knowing how to use a computer, just basic using computers. And you had a computer lab. I had a computer lab. My daughter, who's 15 years old, doesn't have a computer lab at her school. And when I talked to her about it, she's like, no, they don't teach us any of this stuff. We're just expected to know how to operate a computer. Do you find that as a disconnect in today's educational system on the use of a computer versus when we were in school, because it was all brand new, they had to teach us how to, to do that stuff.
I think I was very fortunate. I live in the city of Irvine. Yeah. And very innovative city in that way. And I remembered when I was, my daughter was in middle school, they called all the parents in, and a police officer spoke to us about MySpace. Okay. And how many people were at Sierra Vista Middle School but were 27 years old? Because the kids knew they would gate their birthdays to not have any limitation. So they told the parents, hey, be careful of this. And when they said, and then don't let your kid make a URL, soccer chick 14, because then there were predators. And we had experienced this real time in our .com in 2000. We had a chat room, and we paid people 60 cents an hour to use our site because there was a flashing banner on the top.
Right.
Well, one weekend on the chat room, some people made fun of somebody else in the chat room. We stayed out of it, and then people said, you are paying people to be bigots to other people. So we shut down the chat room, and I thought, well, people could be mean if they're unmoderated. And then when you hear about MySpace and kids posting stuff like soccer pictures and wherever, and the online predator world, it's a dangerous place.
It's wildly dangerous.
Parents need, so yes, I think there should be a training class for kids on computer safety. How to use an iPhone or an Android phone, it's now in their DNA. They can pick up any device and turn it on.
Yes.
But what are the ramifications of when you put a picture into Snapchat and it's backed up, you can delete it. And that was Snapchat's, remember, claim to fame? You'd hold your fingers on the screen.
Right.
But reality is, you can still hold a camera and take a picture of the other picture. So, yes, it should be trained on privacy and security of devices, but not only kids. I think the school should have to offer a class too for parents.
Right.
So,
and I find it really struggling when I'm having conversations with, and I'm, people that I would consider computer laymen, but I think that they're dealing with computers on a regular basis of even data relativity. Like, where does this data reside, right? You're very well aware of that. Oh, it's on my device, or it's on the server, it's on both places, or it's a fork of data. They're having a hard time even comprehending of, is the data on my phone? Is it in an app? Is it on a server? Is it in the cloud? And I just find a big disconnect in the people that are using this technology and them even understanding what it is that they're doing. Correct. At the end of the day, I don't know if it's a problem or not. It feels like a problem to me. I don't know how to solve it.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
Think of it like a car. Like a 69 Mustang, you can look at the engine and you can see the carburetor and the engine and the spark plugs, and you understand it. Most cars today, right, it's sealed in the engine compartment,
right,
and it's just a black box. But at least you know the basics. You know you put on a seatbelt, you know the rules. We don't have those rules around, that methodology or protocol around tech. And I think people need to understand, my kids know that nothing on the internet can be trusted. Right. So I've taught them, if you put it out there in the cloud, somebody can see it. And even if it's been removed or deleted, there's still a breadcrumb of it. Mm-hmm. And for me, they know that I know where it was uploaded from, I know who touched it. So I don't think people know, or parents know, or,
Well, and I almost get the impression half the time when I'm talking with people, they just blow me off like, oh, you're crazy. You're a crazy, way up, uptight tech guy, right? When I really get into these conversations with a lot of folks, and I'm like, no, this is kind of dangerous stuff, right? Or wildly costly, right? I wonder how much the average company loses per year because the salesperson has the wrong pricing on a price sheet that he copied from the sales floor. Oh,
it's probably a lot, but no one discloses that number.
Well, I don't even know how they would quantify it, of how many times that the managers had to back their employee and honor the wrong price because there was a fork in their data.
Correct.
Right.
Legacy.
I know very well that the forks in data cost so much money and so much confusion. You can have an entire team working on the wrong project for weeks if you don't have the data integrity that you really, really need. Especially in larger shops.
Correct. And if you're a large multinational company, maybe in India they do things a little different than they do in Egypt, but it still has to follow the company guidelines. So when you add the global perspective, and then in Germany, we have GDPR. So we can't show certain analytics of what you're doing in Germany California adopted CCPA, which says if you tell a company and they have to be bigger than $50 million in revenue, which isn't a lot, like you could say, hey, Fitbit, take my information out of your system. They have to do that.
Right.
But the technology under it is you have to check every email, your help desk, your CRM. It is very complex where data goes, but I don't think most people understand. When you send it'd be great. Imagine a diagram of when you send a Snapchat picture, what really is the lifespan of that image? It's just not being sent to you. It's going to the cloud. It's going to you. You may view it. It may be deleted from the cloud, but it was backed up and now it's stored forever somewhere, occupying bits on a server that may or may never be seen again, but it still exists.
Yeah, we're going to be wrapping up here soon, but I wanted to tell you, Mark Cuban had a company called Cyberdust. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it. I didn't know much about them.
So he had it was similar to Snapchat. And I don't know if it's still up or not, but there was no hard drives in the data center. Everything was just stored in RAM, which is the random access memory for the people that don't understand that, which means that if the server crashed or went down or the FBI came in to seize everything, that all data would instantly be deleted as soon as it lost power. Right? So there would be none of the data was ever written to a hard drive. It was all just stayed in RAM.
Wow.
Which is pretty wild, right? Because any power outage, you lose 100% of your data. I'm sure the source code was on a hard drive, but the images that users shared never, ever wrote to a hard drive, which I thought was brilliant. But again, the average consumer, I don't even think can comprehend what that means to them.
Right. Our original tagline was secure mobile content. People didn't resonate with that message.
Right.
I do. I want to know who can see what my stuff. But in the world of transparency, where kids today don't matter, they should still be aware of the ramifications.
Right. How dangerous is the assumption? And I'm not a huge security guy. I don't like security. I don't like dealing with it because it's a pain in the butt. But I assume that all my data is compromised. Like I live my life assuming that every bit of data about me has already been compromised unless I haven't written it down anywhere ever. It's just in my head that it's compromised. Is that a safe assumption, or is that just me being overly paranoid?
I don't think it's all been compromised.
Okay.
But what I learned from one of my white hats early on would be like, when you create all these accounts, make sure you always have different password syntaxes with each site, because he goes, the first thing you do, if they breach, like GoDaddy was breached, if they breach GoDaddy, they see your username, they see the email, they instantly take that list, apply it to a script kiddie, and then they'll run it against Wells Fargo and Citibank.
Every single website ever. Right?
Who tells kids, don't use the same password? They say, oh, you know what? Don't use 123 password. And now you have to have an exclamation mark in characters. So people use the same password over and over. And if I could pass any wisdom on to anybody on your podcast, is use unique passwords on all your sites. And mentally, if you say, I'm going to change the third word to be the name of the site or something, so you can remember your methodology. But password sharing is probably, the longer you make a password, the much harder it is to guess.
Yep.
And don't reuse it, because hackers know that I'm going to try to hack Google. I'm sure is attempted to be hacked probably 24 hours every day, because if they can get into your Google password manager, they can get your email, they can see who emails you get, and if they get your password from Google, not saying that they will, nothing against Google, of course,
right, then
they're going to try that. So yes, we should have an intro to IT fundamentals, I think, at the young age. Yep. And it doesn't have to be geeky, but to know what RAM is, that's a good thing.
I'm shocked that they're not teaching that in school. Like, I talk to new employees all the time. I'm like, you know how many bits are in a byte? And they don't know. I'm like, you're not learning this stuff in second and third grade? They're like, no, we're not. I'm like, wow, this is like RAM, ROM, bits and bytes was all something that I was getting taught in the 80s.
Right, because it's all under the hood now. It's just a little black box. It's like AI. It just works, but having a fundamental knowledge of how your car works, how your oven works. Computers are a tool that we use every day.
Right.
We're told not to run with scissors when we're really little. Somebody should say, create secure passwords.
Right.
And start really little.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a story. Halloween of 2022 or 2002, a Halloween night, about 10 o'clock at night, I get a phone call saying there's something going on in the data center, and I come up, and we had a client that was behind a firewall. Everything was secure, all that stuff, but somebody found a hole. It was about 150 servers, web servers, that all had the same root password. And somebody found it, and they took all 150 servers in about 20 minutes, right? And they compromised all of them, and it was, several weeks of work getting that back up and recovered because they scorched earthed it. They just they deleted all the data on all 150 servers as a malicious attack. So it was not a good thing. And since then, I manage today thousands of websites and tens of thousands of servers, and not a single one of them. And I use a program called LastPass. Highly recommend it. You have to maintain your password there too, but that manages all my passwords on all my different stuff. And it has an auditor tool in there that I can say, show me any site that I have the same username and password on, and it will go through and then say, nope, you need to change it on these websites. And it helps me a ton. So I don't have the same username and password on any two websites or any two servers that I use, and I'll never do it again. But you have to have some kind of package like Google Password Manager or LastPass, in my opinion, especially at my volume, to be able to manage that.
Right. So yeah, use tools, but understand. But yes, I totally agree that you got to be.
In today's world, I would even be telling people, I know it's a pain in the butt, but turn that two-factor authentication on, right? Google Authenticator, SMS, whatever you got to do. If you're using the same password everywhere, get that second, third-party authentication set up fast. Because when it's compromised, they'll walk through your entire existence really, really quickly if you're using it everywhere.
I agree. And I agree. It's a slight pain when I want to use my credit union on my phone. It's my phone. It's my same MAC address I've always had, well, with the phone.
Right.
But I still have to do the two-factor auth, but it's like insurance with my car.
Right.
The last time I was in a car accident was 1982. I've been paying it forever, but I still pay it. Right. So this is something that we all need to do, regardless of young or old.
Absolutely. Paul, I've had a blast today talking with you about tech and stuff like that. I hope we get to talk again sometime soon. Do you have anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we go?
So if you're an entrepreneur, please don't quit your day job. And then 2, your ramp. How quick it is until you are in revenue, I guarantee you, unless you're really lucky, the ramp will take a lot longer than you expect. So make sure you stay lean. Don't hire people you don't need. And then get them on, get used to them, get them to know you, and then you can bring them on when you want them. But don't overspend out of the gate. Right. And leave your ego at the door. We ask our clients, what features would you like to see? And then we build a little matrix and we rank the features to see. Because you may think you know everything. No, the customer is right, but the customer doesn't always know. So your job as an entrepreneur is to say, this is what you want. Here's our vision, and be very collaborative and stay secure.
Yeah, the customer is always right, but not everybody is your customer. Right? You can't be changing your entire platform based on every customer's opinion. Paul, if somebody wanted to work with your team, how would they get in contact with you?
So think of tablet with a V, Vablet, and you can find us.
Vablet.com. Thank you, Paul. I very much appreciate it. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.